Welcome to episode 98 of Outside the Circle, a podcast dedicated to new and upcoming country artists, musicians, and songwriters. Today's guest will be Liddy Clark. We'll get to her in a little bit. But first, I'm Ronnie, and here's Brian.
Yeah, what's happening, y'all? This was a fun one, man. And to come back, we had Easter weekend over the weekend. So up here in Jersey, it was pretty decent weather. Saturday and Sunday was. And we took Wyatt to there's this cool like local saddle shop that's around here. And they had 3,500 eggs out. And Wyatt was in his glory, man. He was just running around this. You know what was cool about it is they put him in a pasture, not like a used pasture, so they weren't like running over a bunch of other stuff. So we could just like let him loose in this field and just be like, go pick up eggs. You know, it was pretty fun. He enjoyed it for sure. And then they had like different baby chickens and ducks and stuff inside that all he wanted to do was squeeze. So we made a quick detour away from those. But yeah, man, it was a fun Easter weekend, and we really loved it.
Yeah, no, it's yeah, you're right. The weather was pretty good this weekend. I Easter morning, I went out and played a round of golf, and I walked a full 18 for the first time. I checked my Apple Watch after. I did 16,000 steps and just under seven, no, just over 7 miles. So that was my legs still hurt 4 days later, but yeah, no, I think I told you about it. I joined a golf league, so that was my first outing of the year, and I'm currently in first place because I'm the only one that's played around so far. So I need to gloat about my first placeness there. Yeah, Easter was cool. Gab's down visiting her sister in North Carolina with the new baby, so kind of just hung out with the fam and watched the Masters, the most important part of the weekend.
Dude, that was a good one too. The Masters was great. I watched a couple of the recaps on Sunday night. Fell asleep on the couch like I normally do watching golf on TV. But no, it was definitely a good one to watch. And who is it? Jon Rahm.
Jon Rahm, yeah, he's
Dude played amazing.
he's so good, and I'm still trying to figure out what's more impressive, Jon Rahm's double bogey on the first on Thursday to then coming all the way back and winning, or Brooks Koepka being so far ahead and blowing it. And I don't know which is more impressive.
Well, and also Phil like coming up and like what was his second place or third place?
He ended up tied second with Brooks at the yeah.
Unreal.
Yeah, nobody saw that, and Tiger unfortunately withdrew with his injury, and he was looking terrible. So it was as sad as it is, it was worth it, and I don't think we'll see him at another Masters, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah, it's too bad. But this isn't a golf podcast, right? Even though you try every time to make it a golf podcast.
So I'm actually like trying to start a golf podcast, so I might be promoting that in the future. But yes, no, this is a music podcast, and that's what we're here to talk about. And we had a great guest on this week that talked all about it.
Yeah. No, it was good. And you kind of you held on to the whole beginning part of that. That was a tough one for me to really get into. I have no ties to the West Coast. I appreciate Taylor Swift, but I'm not a diehard Taylor Swift fan. So you and Libby really chatted it up about that whole side of the country and everything. So man, it was a fun interview.
All right, everyone. We're here today with singer-songwriter Liddy Clark. Welcome to Outside the Circle, Liddy. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, no, we're excited. You just put out a new album, which we'll definitely get to shortly, but we always like to kind of start from the beginning. So we'll go through the clichéness of where you grew up, how important music was in your household, all that good stuff.
Well, I was born in Texas in 1998. That was the year I was born. And Yeah, no, I lived in Texas up until the time I was 7. I have always like kind of come from a musical family. My cousin actually was in Sons of the Desert back in the 90s. They were kind of a big band. I think they were signed to Sony at one point, but lots of great songs. Anyways, yeah, and so I've kind of always been a little bit musically inclined, and I've always kind of enjoyed music. And when I turned 7 and actually moved from Texas to Florida with my family, I ended up singing a song at a talent show at my elementary school because I was sad and trying to fit in with people and like, what can I do to kind of put myself out there and make friends with folks? And so I ended up singing Colors of the Wind from Pocahontas because my grandma did genealogy and found out that we were very distantly related. And in my head, that meant that I was related to a Disney princess. And so that was pretty sick, and I wanted to pay tribute to that and also let all of my friends know. And so I ended up, singing Colors of the Wind at this elementary school talent show. And after that, my parents were like, "Oh, you could actually sing on key, and like you actually kind of have a talent for this. Would you like to pursue this further?" And I'm like, "You know what? I think I would." And so from there, I started taking vocal lessons. I did a lot of musical theater up until about the time I was like 13, 14. I kind of stopped around high school. But that was around the time I actually picked up a guitar and started learning kind of how to write my own songs and really got into country music specifically because I ended up listening to it through like the carpool I took to school, and it kind of reintroduced it back into my life after kind of being gone from Texas and not necessarily surrounded by it anymore. But it's been fascinating kind of getting to catch back up with that. And yeah, I started writing my own songs. I started playing out with a band. I did a couple of my first shows out there, and then I ended up moving to Los Angeles back in 2017, where I went to school out at USC out in Los Angeles, and it was a really fun program. I got to learn all about the music industry and the business side of things, and I feel like that was super important for me to learn as far as like, being an artist myself and kind of protecting myself and all the legalities of what the music industry can bring. And yeah, I graduated and now I still live out here in Los Angeles. I thoroughly enjoy it. I really like the weather out here.
Yes.
And yeah, I've basically just been singing and songwriting for honestly like 12, 13 years now. And just keep going. I'm still doing the thing and continuing to grow and learn and kind of just get better at the craft. And that's really what it's all about.
Yeah, that's great. I would love to rewind a little bit and
Yes.
go over what kind of music was it that was playing in your household? Was it just country or was it just everything? I mean, obviously Disney.
Yes, of course. I obsessed with Disney. Pretty obsessed with Taylor Swift. Haven't lost that obsession. I think she's an incredible songwriter
Me
and
too.
artist.
Haven't lost
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
exactly. Haters come and go, but Swifty forever. Absolutely. So we listened to a lot of her, definitely a lot of kind of Disney pop icons of like, the early 2000s were definitely my jam. And yeah, basically just like I would listen to pop radio most of the time, but my dad would always introduce us to kind of like the oldies where, well, not the oldies, but like kind of like rock and roll classics and stuff like, Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin and all that good stuff. So I'm not going to call Zeppelin an oldie.
Yeah. The yeah, that was that hurt a little bit with
Yeah.
first year that you were born was like, oh
Yes.
wow, I'm old, and then to then go that route, I was like, wow, I'm really old. But yeah,
Nah.
so you I'm going to kind of jump around from where my notes
Yeah.
were, but so you're in LA now. Do you go back and forth to Nashville at all? Like what's your like where are you at in the Nashville scene too?
Oh yeah, totally. No, I pretty frequently go back and forth between LA and Nashville. I've got kind of co-writers out here because I also do a bit of like pop writing as well as like my country writers out in Nashville, and I go back and forth probably like once every other month, kind of like picking back up these days. I'm going like once a month right now, but Yeah, no, it's great to kind of be able to work in both sides of music just because I feel like, I don't know, coming out to LA definitely diversified kind of my music taste and the things that I listen to. And so I like to try my hand at everything. I really feel passionately about like a lot of indie pop, but I also feel really passionately about like, Texas kind of style country. And so I like to do a little bit of everything that makes sense to me. So
Yeah, so that's great, especially getting, back and forth so often. Um, to stick to the LA side, so USC, what a fantastic school to go to for
yeah.
anything in the entertainment industry. Um, you're still, so what part of LA are you living in?
Yeah, currently I live in kind of the mid city area, so I'm about 30 minutes away from everything, which is great, but it is 30 minutes from everything. LA is just like way too big of a city.
Oh
Like
yeah.
there's so many people here. It's
Yeah.
it's very congested.
I lived in Van Nuys and Burbank for quite a while, and it's
Okay, yeah.
you were definitely one of many millions. It's yeah.
Yeah, you can feel how many people are here at all times, especially like driving, especially right now. Gosh, I would not want to be on the road right now. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
All right, cool. So then you mentioned, moving to Florida, getting the talent shows, doing the songwriting, picking up the guitar at 13 and all that good stuff. First of all, 13 Taylor Swift, so that's a good reference. But
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
so with all that going on and when did you know or when did you decide like this is what I'm gonna focus on, like that this is you're gonna be in the entertainment industry?
Yeah, I think I knew pretty early on. I'd say like I started kind of writing my original songs around the age of like 13, 14. But I had like written a couple in the past as like a 7 year old, but I don't really like count those because they're not like, fully fledged ideas or anything that like I really sat down and was like, this is going to be a song that I'm going to put out into the world. And I wrote a couple of songs and I put out a couple of them. And, some of them, most of them are not on the internet anymore for good reason. But it was just like so fun and so exciting to kind of be able to like put my emotions and everything into a little, 3 minute and 30-second song that just kind of perfectly encapsulates everything that I'm dealing with in a moment. And I kind of decided really around the age of 15, 16, I guess. That's really when I started doing like more full band shows around like my hometown and really getting like my practice in as far as playing, 2, 3 hour gigs where just like no breaks constantly. Like you can play mostly cover songs, but you get to throw in a couple of originals from time to time, and that was always fun. So yeah, I'd say probably around 15, 16 was when it like really clicked for me.
Yeah, so not only doing music but especially being in LA, kind of going back and forth between LA and Nashville. Not only music, but you're also pursuing acting, modeling, all that stuff as well. So kind
Yeah.
of the whole entertainment industry getting covered there.
Yeah.
I guess as similar as they can be, they're also extremely different industries and different things. Um, how do you feel having worked across multiple entertainment parts of entertainment, that it's like helped you grow as a professional and all that good stuff?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I mean, I can tell you just from being at USC specifically, like all of my friends essentially are in the entertainment business in one way or another. In fact, most of them are kind of involved more on the film side, which is kind of cool because I'm really interested in kind of the intersection between music and film. I'm really big into sync these days. And yeah, I would say that just kind of being involved in different assets of the entertainment industry is pretty cool. I really think that there's more similarities than people realize sometimes because a lot of the people, it's very much like a relationships business and, just putting in your hours and paying your dues and whatnot until you can finally, get a break or get kind of a lucky streak or whatever it is that makes things happen these days. But yeah, no, I love being involved in kind of all the different aspects, and especially since like if I'm not really feeling creative songwriting wise one day, I can be like, okay, I'm gonna like put together a couple of audition tapes for like, you know, pilots or something. And I don't do that much modeling anymore, but I used to do modeling. I was actually the Felicity doll in one of the American Girl doll magazines at one point. Yeah, no, it's funny because they told me I was too tall to audition, and then I auditioned and they gave it to me. So
Yeah, that's such a weird like you can't do this because of this. And
exactly. It's like no one can tell how tall I am in a magazine, like especially if I'm sitting down. Like
yeah,
who's gonna see that?
yeah. Yeah, cool. All right. So then songwriting. So let's kind of focus on that a little bit.
Yeah.
Again, kind of back to the clichéness of tell us a little bit about your process and where you like to draw inspiration from. And you mentioned co-writes with folks in both cities, you know, kind of how that goes for you.
Yeah, so when I like started really sitting down and trying to learn how to write songs, I actually did it with a co-writer friend of mine. She was my vocal coach at the time and also knew how to write songs. And so she kind of like taught me how to, you know, put together the four chords and like kind of the musicality, a bit of that and like choosing what chords to use and kind of figuring out how to succinctly say something in, you know, 3 minutes and 30 seconds. And so after I kind of like bridged out from that and like co-writing, I kind of took a little bit to myself and really learned how to just solo write. And that was probably where I found like my most artistic kind of inspiration, just kind of being by myself and really like listening to what I wanted to say and what was important to me. And so then now I've bridged back out and I've begun, you know, making friends and relationships and being like, hey, I really dig your artistry. Like, would you ever want to write sometime? And I help people write for their projects. I write for my own project. I write for Sync. I just love writing in general. I think it's one of the most, you know, fulfilling things that I've done. And it's something that really makes me feel like I'm kind of creating something that nobody else can create. And that feels like success for me.
So this might be the backwoods talking in me. I don't know
Yeah.
anything about the West Coast or anything. That's probably why I haven't been able to chime in at all during any of that. But you've mentioned Sync a couple of times. What is Sync?
Yeah. Yeah, so sync is basically kind of like music supervision. It's, you know, when you watch a Grey's Anatomy episode and there's a song in the background that's like, you know, Chasing Cars by Snow Patrol, and it's like all sad and Derek's dying, and the music just kind of like helps encapsulate that moment and really heighten it. So that's basically what sync is. It's songs that are made for, you know, accompanying kind of a visual media. And it can be anything from like advertisements, like, you know, Taco Bell, or it can be something for a TV show or film or podcast or literally anything, honestly. And yeah, it's super fascinating to write for just because there are a lot of like common themes involved in that and kind of songs that supervisors are typically looking for. And so that's been a whole world I've really been diving into for the past couple of years, and it's fascinating.
Yeah, I want to check that out. It's funny that you
You
brought
should.
up Grey's Anatomy,
Yeah.
because I like fell in love with, oh man, I can't remember the original song, but they did a cover of it, and it was like super sad and super slow, but it brought in the entire visual of what was happening on the show, and that show is it's so dark.
Exactly. No, it's what on season 19 now. So Grey's Anatomy keeps going. She's eternal.
Yes.
Um, yeah, and it's also just like a fantastic way. Like you mentioned, you heard a song on there that you really liked, and it's a great way for artists to kind of get their music out there and get it heard by people who wouldn't necessarily hear it. And plus, you also get paid on top of that. So I mean, it's like a win-win for everybody.
It's great.
Yeah,
Yeah. So you mentioned Snow Patrol, and my
yeah.
first thought was that went way over Brian's head. He has no idea who they are. But do you know who they are, Brian?
Yeah, don't didn't they? I know one of their songs.
Probably.
The song, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to
It's a
see
great
them
song.
this year.
Yeah.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah. But anyway, so I always like to kind of jump all the way back in time. So you started writing songs about 13 and that age range.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
not going all the way back to 7, but going back
Yeah.
to when you like kind of started putting it together. Do you remember what the first song you wrote was?
Oh, yes, I do, unfortunately. It was a fine song. Basically, I actually remember writing it in my Spanish class. I think I was like seventh grade at the time. I was really mad at one of my friends for, I don't know, they did something. And so it made me mad. And to me, being a tiny 13-year-old who gets upset about everything, it's very true. The red hair, I feel like, comes out with like a little bit of fieriness in my emotions and kind of how I express them. And so I just remember like vigorously writing like in my Spanish class, not paying any attention to like what was going on. And I basically wrote a diss track for this girl and I put it out. And I remember she was like kind of upset about it. And I was like, that's fair. Looking back, like, of course, like that's not cool. So
Yeah, but now
but
you have her to she played a very pivotal role in your songwriting, and now here you
exactly.
are all these years later.
Exactly. And we talked it through. We're fine. That's like 15 years ago. But it was, yeah, just like kind of crazy that, my emotions are really where songs have always come from for me. It's something that feels very motivated by kind of my inability to really process things internally and really my need to process things externally by like writing it down and just getting it out there. That's another reason I journal every single day because I just need an outlet for everything that is going on in my head. So,
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
good. And a lot of songwriters go as far as like writing every single day. And that doesn't mean that you're writing a song every single day, right? That just means you're like
yeah,
grabbing a couple of lines, or like you said,
yeah.
writing that journal, something to draw off of as far as songwriting goes.
Exactly. Exactly. And I found a lot of really great song ideas from my journal. I feel like I like just start writing and I don't really try and stop myself. I try and just keep going with the pen and like don't put it down. That's like one of the writing exercises I used to do when I was younger. And yeah, no, a lot of times I'll like write something down and I'll be like, "Ooh, wait, that's actually a cool title. I think I'm going to pick that up later." So, yeah.
Yeah. And not to mention from a mental health standpoint, journaling and
Yes.
writing and getting things out is
Yeah.
obviously a very, very powerful tool.
Yeah.
So talking about songwriting, I think that's kind of the perfect time to segue into our little break here. Why don't you go ahead and introduce the song that we're going to play for you, and then we'll talk about it when we come back.
Yes. So the song that they're about to play for y'all is We Both Know. It's by me, Liddy Clark. And yeah, this is probably one of the songs that's done the most successful on, social media and all the good platforms like TikTok and Spotify and whatnot. And it's really resonated with people, which is really exciting because I love when my music resonates with people. Anyways, this is We Both Know by Liddy Clark.
We're friends. When they ask me how I tell them is we're friends. But honestly, that word stopped making sense in this context ever since I started feeling something more. And I can't see this as platonic, I just can't. And if I'm being honest, I guess that you feel it too, and maybe you're just scared or unsure. Is what we have good enough to justify keeping these feelings inside? As comfortable, as wonderful as what we'd be if we just tried. I've been going crazy trying to find the right time to open up the door and baby let you inside. Oh, we don't wanna say it, but we both know what we're thinking. And everyone keeps asking when it's gonna happen, or if all will ever be is just what could have been. Oh, we don't wanna say it, but we both know what we're thinking. A part of me wants to play it safe, be the girl who tries to win this game of who gives in first and finally hears the words she wants to say. I know that if I don't, I'll regret it. Feeling like the words left unsaid could have led to finding what I've been looking for. Is what we have good enough to justify keeping these feelings inside? As comfortable, as wonderful as will we be if we just try?
He's cute. He's got. I feel like I'm just searching for like some kind of dramatic gesture. You know, like a dramatic gesture of just any kind. Fake a medical emergency or something.
I've been going crazy trying to find the right time to open up the door and baby let you inside. Oh, we don't wanna say it, but we both know what we're thinking. And everyone keeps asking when it's gonna happen, or if all will ever be is just what could have been. Oh, we don't wanna say it, but we both know what we're thinking. What we have good enough to justify keeping these feelings inside? As comfortable, as wonderful as what we be if we just tried. I've been going crazy trying to find the right time to open up the door and baby let you inside. Oh, we don't wanna say it, but we both know what we're thinking. Keeps asking when it's gonna happen, or if all will ever be is just what could have been. Oh, we don't wanna say it, but we both know what we're thinking.
All right, so let's talk about We Both Know. First and foremost, what was the inspiration behind that song and eventually releasing it as a single from the album?
Yeah, so I wrote We Both Know about one of my friends in my friend group in college. It was actually about two of my friends in my friend group that they had kind of a flirtatious vibe going on, and we were like, oh, they're like totally into each other, but like the guy was kind of oblivious to it, and then the girl like came and told everyone, all the girls in like one of the dorm rooms, about how he had like touched her shoulder or something, and like what did that mean. And so it was just like a whole hour-long discussion of like dissecting that one little action that happened and kind of going into all of the feelings and emotions that come with that. And so me being a songwriter, I hear this and I'm like, ooh, this is fun. I am inspired by this. I want to write something about you specifically. And so I do. And it's fun. The girl, actually, she's my roommate now. So she's like literally like 50 feet away or whatever. But yeah, I ended up kind of putting it out and as a single, not really knowing, if this was going to be the one that people really were drawn to, or, you can never really tell these days with like songs, because some people are like, oh my gosh, I absolutely love that song. And you go back and you think like, oh my gosh, I almost didn't put this out as a single because I did not think it was going to go that well. But yeah, We Both Know has always been one of my favorites, and it was really exciting to put that out and kind of see, the response that people have been having, because it's so true these days, flirtationships and situationships and in this day and age, so real. So it's definitely relating with all the kiddos, I guess. Gosh, I'm not that old. I shouldn't be saying kiddos. Anyways, yeah.
No, this is a fun song.
Yeah.
What I liked about it is I always speak on like the production side. It's just, the way that I hear things, and the vocal presence is what stands out for me. You crushed it on that. And I love like the subtlety of the music that's happening underneath you. It just kind of like lends itself to really focus in on the words that you're saying. And secondly, I love you can hear like the Texas influence into like the the pop country sound that's going on, and it's really fun one. And then I'm just checking my notes here. The music video, once you said that you were really into the film side of it, it's really cinematic. The music video, as you're watching it, you're like, oh man, this is fun. And the cut to the recorder is brilliant. I laugh.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I worked really closely with the director on that video, kind of putting together a treatment and everything that we really wanted in there. And the recorder wasn't originally in the script, but we ended up just finding it in the house, and he recorded his little thing, and we were like, you know what? We should put that in. But yeah, what I really wanted to get across with that music video was kind of a cinematic feel, as well as kind of the over dramatization. I don't know how the heck to say that word. I know it's a word, but kind of just being over dramatic about, if he doesn't like me, if my crush tells me that he's not into me, I will just literally fall on the floor and die. And so I really wanted to get across kind of the silly, fun aspect of that, and just kind of the nature of the song and the video. And it was such a blast to film. I had so much fun working with the folks over at Driver's Ed doing that. So
yeah, no, it's a fantastic song, and I love the what is it, flirtationships and situationships. I've never heard those put together. I absolutely love that. But yeah, I definitely want to mimic Brian on the vocal aspect of it. And we're going to talk about the record as a whole in a second, but the whole thing feels to me very vocal driven. And I mean, I guess that's the point, right? You're the star of the show, quote unquote. But so you're like there's you, and then there's everything accompanying you. And I think that the way that's like subtly done, and it's perfect. But
thank you so much.
Yeah, no, it's a fantastic song, and it is off of your debut full length album. Made Me is the title of that. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, mid-March, March 17th or so.
March 17th. Yep, St. Patrick's Day.
So can't forget that one, St. Patrick's Day.
Exactly.
So We Both Know is doing very well, successfully, and all that. The album as a whole, how has the response been? Just kind of putting all of it out there.
It's been great so far. I mean, we've gotten, I think, 1.8 million total streams on the album, which is really cool, because I have yet to. We Both Know is the closest to reaching 1 million streams, but everything else, it's cool to see that, like, it's not just one song that people are gravitating towards. It's kind of the whole project, and each song, like, I'll have people come, like, DM me, and they'll be like, oh my gosh, I found you through TikTok on We Both Know, but then, like, I listened to the whole project, and, like, I really love, Do I Miss You, or Nothing Like New York. And it's kind of cool to see kind of the cross collaboration that kind of, makes happen, and just kind of seeing, people's response and really enjoying the project as a whole is what I really wanted. So
yeah, that's like the artist dream, right? You don't want to just play like the singles game where you just are constantly that, and to have the positive feedback of having people actually listening to the full album that you worked so hard to put together is definitely a good thing to have. And it's refreshing to hear too. You always hear that I'm just gonna throw a couple singles here and there out, knowing that people just don't care about albums, and it's nice to actually hear that people are responding well to it.
Yeah, no, it's incredible, and I definitely agree as far as like playing the singles game. I'm like always so worried that I'm gonna like have one song that does really well, and then everything else is like, oh, why did you release that? But no, everyone's been super great so far, and the response has been awesome. I always ask my friends like kind of what their favorite songs are, and I feel like I get a different answer every time. So I feel like that's positive. So.
Yeah, well, that's the goal, right? Is to
yeah.
So at the end of the episode, we're gonna play "Till the Sun Breaks the Dawn," which is the last track on the album, and We Both Know is the first track. So we're literally going from the start to the finish there. I highly suggest that everybody listening go check out everything in between. Speaking of favorite songs, I absolutely love the Sorry Mom and Dad.
Yes, thank you.
The amount of time, I mean, obviously the situations are a little different that you're singing about, but the overall, the about, yeah, sorry, Mom. But
yeah, no, literally, that was one song that I got the title first, and I was like, oh, that'd be a really funny like joke song to write, like something really funny that like audiences can laugh at. And then it's like, okay, yeah, I've got a couple of zingers in there that people, you know, always laugh at shows and like songwriting, you know, sessions and whatnot. But yeah, it's honestly like kind of a sad song, but it's all a joke, so it's fine, so it's all good.
And the thing I love most about it, looking physically at it on Spotify, and I guess the rest of them too, it's the only song with the explicit tag. So I immediately was like, I'm gonna listen to that first.
Yeah, no, it's fun. It's fun. It tagged the whole album as explicit because of that. So I'm like, oh gosh, people are gonna think I'm like crazy, like writing all these like curse words in my songs. I promise I'm not. I just, you know, call a guy an a-hole. So that's what it is.
Well, I mean, you're not
and
wrong.
Sometimes
so.
They deserve it. So
Absolutely. So regardless of the explicit tag on it,
yes,
you have been getting quite a bit of recognition, really from some heavy hitter type outlets, Billboard, AXS, Entertainment Tonight. I believe I saw Rolling Stone, Disney, you know, go back to them.
Yep.
And then you mentioned social media, how well that's all doing, especially TikTok with We Both Know. So I guess what I want to get to is, how has kind of receiving all that recognition help push you forward and I guess ultimately into your next chapter?
Yeah, so it's fun. I've already kind of started recording my next album project, whatever it's going to be. But yeah, I think a lot of the press and kind of the good reaction I get from people is definitely very motivating to go forward, because it's kind of a lonely life being an artist and kind of a writer, and just kind of like writing your songs and putting it out there and just kind of hoping people like it. And you kind of live for a bit of validation in terms of that, because it's like, hey, I want to be told that my stuff is good and that it's serving some kind of purpose, and I'm not just like writing this for myself. Although I am writing it like in the moment when I'm writing it, I'm writing it for myself. I'm writing it for like kind of my healing journey and just kind of trying to heal from hurt, or, you know, whatever other emotions I'm going through at the time, which, you know, it's a wide array. It constantly changes. But it's always good, just because I feel like, you know, I am making a difference. I am making an impact in people's lives. And, you know, even though they're just songs, you know, a song can instantly kind of change somebody's mood. It can instantly change somebody's mindset about something. And I really do believe that music is so powerful. And I want to release good music that people find inspiring to them. And when they find it inspiring, it inspires me to keep going. So
You know what I like about that too is that your audience is very wide. You know, your sound has, you know, that pop country and then that country undertone to it. So it allows itself to be taken as like that crossover, you know, someone that doesn't listen to real hard, you know, traditional country as myself can still, you know, appreciate what you're creating. And then on the same side, you know, someone that, you know, is just a pop, you know, artist or pop fan can jump on board and still, you know, receive your messaging and everything. I think your sound allows it to, you know, be received from so many different outlets, which is amazing. You know, as an artist, it's you know, it's very cool.
yeah, thank you so much. I kind of tried with this project not to like put labels on it, because people are like, oh, it's country, it's pop. And I'm just like, I just kind of want to serve the song and what best fits it instrumentally. And so it ended up kind of being a little bit down the middle and kind of in a couple of different Venn diagrams and in the middle of that. And it's really cool just to kind of see people's response, because I do have a lot of folks that are like very country leaning that'll be like, ooh, I actually really love this like kind of poppy record. And I'm like, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite thing that I always, fall back to is that, the genres are so, limiting. And if you try to write yourself into that genre, you end up just cutting off one leg. And to me, I've always said that there's two genres. You have good music and you have bad music, and that's
Yeah.
really it. If you can just create good music, it doesn't matter what the hell it falls into as far as genre. You know what I mean? People love it for what it is.
Exactly. No, 100%. And especially like living out in LA, I feel like I hear so many like different new genres of music that aren't even like genres. It's like, electro, talking, hip hop, soul. And it's like, oh my gosh, there are so many different things going into this, but like it all makes sense and it's just good music. And I want to listen to it, even if it's not necessarily something that I would listen to. And that's something I've really been trying to do is like listen to all different kinds of music and really grow kind of my palette as far as what I listen to because I feel like that also influences what I write. And so I want to write kind of cool and unique and different stuff. I want to say something that hasn't been said before because that's kind of the whole point. So
Yeah, it's so talking about LA and that music scene. The one band that I played in when I lived in LA, I don't even know like what was happening. Like the one guy loved the Strokes, then someone else like only listened to Wu-Tang Clan, and then somebody else, and it was such a. And then there's me listening to whatever emo sad song of the day.
nice.
So like it was
Beautiful.
but
Mhm.
LA has that magic where somehow it all works.
It all works. It is magical out here. I gotta say, I love going to shows out here because you never really know what you're gonna hear. So
Yeah, no, absolutely. All right, so let's start closing up a little bit. We are starting this new thing, our essentially our last question of the night. So I mentioned before, when you were talking about journaling, like the importance of like the mental health side of things and all that, and so it got me thinking a couple weeks ago, and now we've been incorporating this. So can you give us one thing, so it doesn't have to be music related, let me start with that, it could be anything in life, can you give us one thing that you're grateful for and one thing you want to work on?
that's really good. Um, Kind of on the mental health train as far as what I'm grateful for. I'm really grateful for my friends that I surround myself with. I feel like they're kind of my support system and my rock. And I'm also very grateful for my dog. He's technically my roommate's dog, but we co-parent him together. And I feel like when we got him, our mental health just like went way up. We were like, okay, we have a little guy who just wanders around the house and like looks silly all the time. And it's incredible. It does wonders for just like elevating serotonin and whatnot in the brain.
Yes.
And then one thing I want to work on, I think balance is kind of the biggest thing for me right now that I want to work on. I want to figure out a way to balance kind of music and life and work and career and making new friends and all sorts of, different aspects of kind of just trying to better myself as a person. And I want to figure out a balance that really lends itself to kind of progressing my life in an upward trend. I think that's something that I'm looking forward to tackling this year. So
Yeah, and if you find the solution to balance, let me know, because
I will.
that is something that I fully struggle with all the time. But yeah, no, it's yeah, you definitely can't count out the people you surround yourself with, and our pets, and there's the amount of times my cat keeps walking in and out and I just want to like grab her, and but yeah. No, that's all awesome, and yeah, so then I guess to kind of officially close out then. So you just released Made Me back in March. You mentioned starting to record and get some stuff together for a new project. Is there anything you have coming down the line that you want to touch on and let folks know about?
I would just say to keep an eye out. I'm going to be releasing a couple of acoustic tracks coming up soon for some of the songs on the album that people really like. I decided to do kind of a different version for them. And so we're going to release a little collection of that up in the future in the next couple of months. So keep an eye out. And yeah, I'd say just keep in touch on social media. I'm always kind of posting about what's next in terms of, releases and shows and tours and whatnot. So yeah, just follow me at Liddy Clark. So.
That's perfect. I really look forward to the acoustic stuff. That's definitely my side of the musical world. So yeah, thank you so much for joining us tonight, and definitely look forward to hearing more from you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. This was such a pleasure.
So that was our interview with Liddy Clark. And yeah, I mean, Brian, you mentioned we talked a lot about the West Coast up front and then dove into our album. And I know I said it in the interview to her, but I really enjoy how vocal driven and how musically it complements and subtly comes in to push her vocals forward. And yeah, I feel like we haven't really seen an album kind of rely so heavily on like that approach in a while.
Yeah, and not to be a bad point of view, but this definitely is like more of the popular country tone. That's coming from me, who is a traditional at heart steel guitar and fiddle type of player and listener. So no, but this was really fun interview. I definitely like her sound. I think what she offers to the music world of having those crossover fans, having fans that listen to one or the other crossover and gain fans in that way is such a smart move. And it, like she said, I mean, she's into letting the songs live their own life type of thing. It doesn't matter what genre they fit in, it works, man. It totally does.
Yeah, and you said it in the interview too, the crossing over the genres is only beneficial. Like you said, the pop listener might not be listening to Tyler Childers, and now all of a sudden they might go, oh, I like that, she did this and I noticed that, like, so, and vice versa. So I think the important thing is the understanding, maybe that's not the right word, the being able to connect to the music. And she definitely hits that on the head. She's a very situational songwriter, which obviously the more authentic, the more real, the more we gravitate towards that. And maybe it's the Taylor Swift fan in me, but I definitely dig the record a lot. But yeah, I think we're getting that next project soonish, and she mentioned the couple acoustic deluxe versions off the Made Me album. Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
great artist, great singer, songwriter. Another good one in the books.
Yeah, and once again, we want to thank Liddy for coming on Outside the Circle. Be sure to follow her on all of her social media and music listening platforms. We'll leave you today with Liddy Clark's Till the Sun Breaks the Dawn.
The drought runs dry in the western sky as your world begins today. The sun climbs over the power lines, yet you feel a little gray. It seems like only yesterday you were on another shore. But with all those times we felt so right, you knew we'd never be more than what we were. So you unpack your bags and you move in your things, ignoring the cold that the winter's gonna bring. When you hear my name for the very first time since we moved on, but so we've tried. From that summertime in the city lights, with thought of an end wasn't on my mind. When the world was a mountain 3 blocks wide, it was just a matter of time before we were. Cause sometimes love's only temporary, and all we've got is a ticking clock in the back of our heads. But that don't mean that we don't carry on, at least till the sun breaks the dawn. In the black and white of morning light, my thoughts become more clear. There's no sense of wanting for the past if you're there and I'm stuck here. But it sure feels nice to know that I had someone for that time. And though in the end just say we're friends, we'll never be quite like we were before. Cause sometimes love's only temporary, and all we've got is a ticking clock in the back of our heads. But that don't mean that we don't carry on, at least till the sun breaks the dawn. Happiness and footsteps at your door. And I hope you find a love in life that you've never felt before. And when Sacramento calls your name, won't you look back on the past and remember the starry-eyed dreamer? And I promise that's not the last you'll see of me. Cause sometimes love's only temporary, till the sun breaks the dawn, at least till the